I get a little bit breathless, my thoughts are too big. Can I get some comfort, please? I guess I should have been honest. It breaks in my heart, it's weighing me down, baby. I'm like a river that's overflowed. The sooner you know it, the less do we hurt. Let me speak the truth. I know you don't want to face it, you think it's too late, but I can see past the rain. Won't you lay it on me? Turn the bed.
What we're not focusing on knowing in and replacing it with what we are guessing will happen is we're not grounded in the reality of our predicament. And that's where we need to get in the acceptance part. The reality is every single life system that our species depends on is in a declining state on this planet. Every day getting worse and worse and worse in terms of what we need for our survival. That's a reality state of mind, of our current predicament. We're enacting our species is enacting the story of infinite growth, which is ridiculous and impossible on a planet with finite resources.
Good evening, Karen. Welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am so happy to have Karen Perry as my guest, the free spirit, the wonderful person who is collapse aware and is going to talk to all of us about being collapse aware. Welcome. Welcome, Karen. Second time. Yes. A lot has changed. A lot has changed. We lost our Michael Dowd. The world is changing. Collapse is coming. I mean, we see it more. Just a lot of things for us to talk about. Maybe there's new people with us that don't know who you are. So take it away. How are you? It's great to see you.
Well, thank you, Sandy. And I want to say that I have this little special celebrate candle that I like to light on special occasions. And being the second time that I get to do this with you, and because I know you're about to complete another lap around the sun, right?
God, please.
Oh, it's something to celebrate. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So yay.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll celebrate. Yeah, they're laughing at it, but anyway.
And we have to celebrate every day because they're super precious. And I consider it to be global hospice time. And so I certainly appreciate you spending some of your precious global hospice time with me this evening, and anybody else who's choosing to do so live and maybe in the future watching the recording. Thank you, because it is precious, valuable time. And we really do need to feel grateful to have it each and every day.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And I'm just going to shout out to some of our beautiful followers that are here, Jean and Kristen Rose and Kim, our moderator, and Singing Way, Karen, her name is Karen, Thomas, Chattel Warhorse. Great to see everybody tonight because we're going to have a pretty good conversation. But One of the first things, Karen, I want to start, and thank you for that, was really nice. Having you here with us is just wonderful. One of the things I wanted to start with, and that, I don't know if anybody went back and watched the first interview that I did with you or what they've seen, but I wanted you to talk a little bit about how it became that you became collapse aware, which I'm collapse aware. I'm completely there. I've gone through the grief, but sometimes I vacillate. I think we all do. But how did it happen for you?
Well, first of all, I will say I don't consider myself collapse aware anymore, but I consider myself to be collapse accepted.
Okay.
And I think that there's actually a huge difference. And Michael Dowd was really clear on that difference as well, where awareness of anything is kind of the, I don't know, it's the more hell part of any situation. And everybody has examples of having to come to terms with hard truths in their lives, of some description. And it was an awareness that came to you, and you had to do a lot of work to deal with it, go through the grief, go through the anger, go through the suffering, go through the bummers, go through the bargaining of trying to figure it all out. Is this really true? Is this really happening? And then you get to a place where you accept it. And I think there's a lot of people in the world who are very collapse aware. And I don't know exactly how many there are that are willing to step out and say, yeah, no, I accept this. This is the reality of our predicament. So how did that happen for me? I came to the environmental activism shoot like, many have. I got arrested twice protesting fossil fuels. I spent a lot of time at Occupy. I had grants from the Post-Carbon Institute of books, Energy, Overdevelopment, and the Delusion of Endless Growth that I passed out on the street and gave talks. And I have done a lot. Uh-oh.
I hear the echo. Is somebody playing the show?
Jordan, can you fix that?
That's the beauty of live.
Oh my gosh.
We can hear him.
Hold on. I know
That's
what that
okay.
is.
That's all right. It's the other computer playing it. That's why I love live. Yes. Collapse acceptance.
Oh my gosh.
Collapse
So
aware.
I can talk about this.
Acceptance. I think I'm accepted, actually. I shouldn't say I'm just aware.
So,
obviously, you can't do what I do. All right.
Yeah. So it just, there was a lot of things along the way that were just like big gut punch moments for me to have to just come to terms with all of this. And we could go into them, and I do in other conversations, but essentially I got here to the place where I had to say, okay, we're not going to fix it. We're not going to solve it. We're not going to, change it. We're on the Titanic. We've hit the iceberg. Now what do we do? How do we live? Your show is fabulous in giving all the, hard
Horrible
truth
details.
Yeah. Right. And I actually wrote a piece on my Substack called Pink Lines, which I equate since I'm a mom of 2 sons, adult sons now. And, I had the pregnancy test with the pink lines. And when you stare at those lines and you know what they mean, like your whole world changes. And it's a moment of acceptance for you that the doors suddenly shut and new ones open. And I feel like all of the data that you present here is looking at those pink lines on that pregnancy test.
It's really true how you say that. What would it be for a dude? Same thing. I mean, a dad, same thing.
Yeah, same thing. They get their oh crap moment too, or their oh my gosh, that's amazing moment. But whatever it is, it's a whole new reality that unfolds in front of you. And, and that's what acceptance of collapse is as well. It's, we're called doomers. It's used as a slur.
No
Um,
kidding.
and I think it's something to celebrate. Like we're like the courageous, the strong, the brave. Like we're facing this, and we're also ready to say, okay, now what does it mean? What can I do with this? And I think what it means is we can figure out how the heck we could collapse well
Right.
and what that could look like. I'm going to try to get rid of this echo a little bit.
It's okay. It doesn't sound bad. I think a lot of us are it's fine. It really does. I think the chat tell me it sounds good. Yeah. All right. The sane, you're sane. See the sane, I tell you, the sane. Absolutely. Well, collapse acceptance. So for those people that may not be there, we'll start with how you talk to people when you meet them, and they might be aware, they understand the climate, they understand, but they might not be where they need to be, and they're stuck in their lives. How do you help them?
Right. So the first thing I would probably do is recommend anybody who's struggling with this go to postdoom.com
Mm-hmm.
because it's the best place I know of on the internet to go for free and get the most best education one could possibly need through the amazing videos that Michael Dowd made from years of reading and talking to people and conversations, and it's chock full of resources, great conversations. And since his death,
Mm.
October 7th of last year, um, I got passed the post doom torch by his widow, Connie Jordan, and myself. She said, hey, I do trees. I want you to take on post doom. I can't do them both. And of course, I just said, okay. Yeah. And then I was able to pull in a couple people to help. Jerry Russell's one of them. And he's been the tech guru behind the scenes because, as you can tell, tech is not my strong
It's
suit.
okay. We're not
And
all the same. Yeah.
right.
That's why we have
But
tech people.
it's been a great partnership, and we've done a complete overhaul on the website. Michael was amazing at a lot of things, including being incredibly scatterlogical. So the site was kind of all over the place, but we've really tried to streamline it, make it really user friendly. So that's the first thing I would say. And then the next thing I would say is read the 15 benefits of collapse acceptance that I wrote, because what they offer, I think, is a pathway out of awareness and out of the grief and into, okay, I get it. Now, how am I going to live my life?
Mm-hmm. Why don't you give us a couple of them? I didn't pull it up. I did last time I did, but I didn't pull it up. Give us a couple of them that you think are quite poignant for, let's say, somebody who's maybe a little kicking and screaming or frightened, actually.
Well, the first one is freedom. So it sounds maybe counterintuitive, but it actually is so freeing to finally say, yeah, okay, I accept this,
Mm-hmm.
because all of that work that you've had to do to get there finally just goes, and you start to go, okay, if this is what we're facing, if this is the reality of our predicament, then there's freedom in going forward and figuring out, now how am I going to live my life. Another one is letting go, because we grip so tightly to things like dreams and legacy and expectations and blame and shame and all of these things that we can finally just say, why do I need any of those?
Right?
Like, I don't have to worry about who's going to get my fill in the blank collection of whoobies or whatever, because
Your whoobies. Do you have whoobies, Karen? You have whoobies. She has whoobies.
um, and another one is death comfort, because it actually forces the reality check of having to face death and get comfortable with it, because it's coming for all of us, potentially sooner than later.
Uh,
And
yeah.
and that means you and everybody you love. So you just got to get a lot more comfortable with it. And our culture that we've all been steeped in does a horrible job of preparing anybody to be comfortable with death. So that's another benefit. And I could go on, but there's 15 of them.
Yeah.
So
And there'll be links. And if you watch our first interview, we went through them all extensively. So that was good. But that's, well, it's over 2 years ago. And a
yeah.
lot, like I said, a
The
lot
other
has
one that
changed.
I'll mention that is really freeing is this one I call superhero release, because anybody who's been in the activist world, whether it's social justice, environmental justice, there's so much wrapped up in wearing that like Superman cape, and like I gotta like have to change my life, do all these things, try to pass this purity test to try to live, more pure and ethical. And then I got to hold everybody around me to all these same standards, and being able to realize that we're not going to fix it. We're not going to solve it. We can't stop it. Just to be like, wait, what? I don't have to fight anymore. And wait, what? Like, it's okay if I have to throw away something in a disposable society. Like, we hold ourselves to such high standards, and it doesn't matter what we do. We're all guilty every single day of making things worse.
Yeah. And I think about that and I say, oh my gosh, but there's really not, you don't have these choices. If I even wanted the choices, there are choices I can't make. But I'm still stuck in a bit of the activist mode. I mean, like I'm attracted to what Roger Hallam is doing and saying, or some people. So there's still that continuum, I suppose. But it
Yeah.
doesn't have to
And
be an ending. I don't think collapse acceptance is an ending of anything.
oh no.
Completely
I
the
mean, is it,
beginning.
when you see those two pink lines,
Yeah,
is that an ending?
absolutely not.
It's an ending of something, of the life you had before you were pregnant, but it's definitely of a beginning of a whole new reality, right? And that's what collapsing well means. This is a shift in everything that we're doing and talking about, using the right language, using the right framing, so that we can position everything going forward with the goal of how can we collapse well, and using that to scrutinize what it is we're doing, whether it's in activism communities, whether it's in our personal lives, whether it's in how do we interact with our neighbors, our community. Like, asking the question, how does this, whatever it is, decision I'm making, support collapsing well, is I believe, a whole shift in framing and understanding that we collectively need to be doing across the board. And it doesn't matter if you're Roger Hallam, or if you're, Jem Bendell, or if you're, Joanna Macy was the one who kind of first tossed this out. Like, anybody who's been in these like regenerative and transition towns, and all of caught up in this whole like the great shift in whatever it is that has been dangled out there. It's like, what if that framing became collapsing well instead? I think we'd all be able to see more clearly the work that there is to do that leads to the wise responses
Yes.
of the question you asked at the topic
Yes.
of this.
Yeah, I'll put it up. Why do we keep focusing on false solutions or wise responses? And I do like that, and that was yours. So let me ask you a question about younger people and how they how what do you say to a 30-year-old? What do you say to a 20-year-old? What do you say to somebody that is going to be here longer? We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know. We're just witnessing. We're witnesses of this happening. What do you say to them?
It's probably more what I don't say, because what I don't do is offer them any of the traditional dominant culture bullshit lies and expectations.
Okay.
So what I don't say is like, hey, how's your job? How's your career? What's your, plans for your future? I direct conversations towards being really enthusiastic about things that they're doing that aren't following a predictable get in line, get on the treadmill path, and try to be that voice of support to say, yeah, hey, awesome. No, you don't need that full-time job. No, go live your life. Like, enjoy it now. Who knows how much time we have, and it's better to, know why, and I'll call out, all the things that are falling apart if there's an opportunity to organically do so. And the thing of it is, with the 30s and under, like, they don't exactly need a collapse acceptance intervention, most of them, because if they're paying attention at all, they already totally get it.
Yeah.
When I had the 15 benefits conversation with Michael, I was really excited and I shared it. We've got 5 kids between us. Jordan and I do blended. They're 19 to 27 now.
Oh,
and
boy.
the oldest one, I'll never forget, he watched it and I said, hey, so what did you think? And he was like, yeah, I don't get it. I was like, what do you mean you don't get it? And he's like, I don't see why people need to do this collapse acceptance work. I've known we're effed since I was, as far back as I can remember. And
Yeah.
it's just how it is. And I think they're way more what we call collapse native. Like,
It's been here. It
it's
is
just
what it
the
is.
reality. It's more, our generation and, maybe a little bit behind us, and certainly the elders now that need the collapse
Need the hands.
acceptance work,
Yeah.
you know?
The thing about young people, care, is that, I mean, they still have to eat. They still have to live. And so, I guess you're right about not giving them the same old shit. They're still in a society that is quite rigid. And then there's people in cities and cities that maybe have seen collapse ever since they were born, right all around them. So they've been living in a collapse situation. For them, though, it's probably, I'd say, the 15 points that you wrote could be very helpful.
Yeah, they're already living them all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure they are. They are, they already get it. That it's not something that they need to spend. Well, one, they probably don't have the privilege enough to be able to just sit down and,
I know.
let me read through this list of benefits that I can have if it's, but there's a place and time for truthy conversations to be had. And I think it's abusive by the older generations to no longer be telling the truth about the reality of our predicament and expecting the younger generations to just get in line and, keep playing along. So one of the things about collapse acceptance, to me, that's a benefit, is also being able to set the younger generations more free, whatever that looks like. And sure,
Yes.
everybody has to eat. We all have to figure out ways to have ducats, but there's lots of creative ways to do that. All 5 of our 19 to 27s live with parents. We're grouped up multi-generationally.
Well,
because we didn't shove him out the door at 18 and
which I
say,
think is
"Hey, well,
great.
best of luck to you."
Yeah.
And there was a time in our not too distant past that it was more than obvious that multi-generational living was was the norm,
It was.
not the
And
exception.
now we don't do it, and everybody has to fly to see their family. This is what I hate because this is my life, and I don't want to. But if I want to visit, I have to fly to see my mother or my brother out in Eugene. Everybody is far, and I don't. They come to me, but I go to my mother. That's the one I go to. But I feel terribly guilty when I do, and then I'm on the not guilty. I don't like flying because I know what it contributes. But yet, what example am I setting by not going? Then I just don't see my mother. And that's not what
Yeah,
I want to
which,
do. I want to see her. She's turning
right.
90 in her birthday. She's coming to New York. So we're having a party for her in April. And she's in better shape than I am. But I think she's pretty
That's
much aware. She's very aware of things around her.
Well, that's an example of the of not being able to pass the purity test, right? So it's like, whatever, we're in this, it's what's happening. It's not going to change our fate whether or not Sandy gets on an airplane and goes to see her mom. I mean, it's just, will it make a better quality of life potentially for her and her mom? Yeah, sure. So, and this is where the letting go of that blame and judgment on each other is really, really important, because we can get so caught up in, like, you know
The
taking shots at each
minutia.
other for their habits. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't like that at all. I like it's always the live and let live for me. Other people make their choices. Who am I to tell them how to live? I'm not a militant anything. I just like to,
right,
like you were a teacher. I was a trainer partially. We like to just impart information, wisdom, teaching, caring, heart, things from the heart though. That's what I see
right.
in this, especially with what
Yeah,
you're doing.
and that's why when I wrote the benefits, I purposefully kept them really short and tight for a variety of reasons. But one is because they're seeds, not a recipe. And I have no idea how they're going to germinate in somebody else's life, and what freedom's going to mean in somebody else's life, or what making amends is going to mean, or,
Hmm.
that's not up to me to decide. It's up to each of us to decide, you know, and
Right.
give each other the grace and respect to be able to just decide, because we're all, again, on the flippin' Titanic. So how are you going to live?
I would like to meld and mix this information with some of the younger activists that I've seen, but these are different activists. They're working or want to change the entire system, the entire capitalist mess. And I give them a lot of credit because it's I think it's worthy to go down with the ship with grace, like with maybe something different, maybe not what we're headed towards, but I think there's a good mixture and a good place for this.
Well, again, under the umbrella of collapsing well,
Mm-hmm.
how does this, address collapsing well? Then absolutely changes in our economic system would do huge things. If we had universal basic income, for example, like if we just decided we wanted to make sure everybody had shelter and
Yes.
food and
Yes.
some basic health care before we, like, spent billions of dollars on military weaponry,
Oh.
like that's a you could absolutely make the case that that addresses how could we collapse well. So sure, but you also have to keep it within the parameter of reality. There is that big giant hole in the hull of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that the efforts that you're putting in really, really match up with the reality of our predicament, so that you're not just banging your head against a false solution that's only going to give you and everybody around you giant headaches. and potentially make everything worse.
Yeah, I like that. It does. It feels good. I have. I'm getting sidetracked by the chat because I really want to bring them into this conversation. It's what I like to do with certain guests. Really, definitely, we're interactive. So I'm going to start because Gary Hoover is here, and he was very happy when I said you were going to be with us. I recommend exploring ontological shock. That's actually a widely shared trauma right now. OST people do not allow awareness of what they know deep sewn and experience ambiguous loss and anxiety. Wow. Gary, you've seen his newsletter. He comes to meetings, or he was at Michael's. Yeah, Gary is an amazing person, but he was very happy. Gary, if you have anything else you want to offer, and he's grateful for the conversation. Once again, it's great to see Karen and Sandy in conversation again. It's true because I think
Yeah,
we feel the same way about mostly everything. Other, although because I guess by virtue of the fact that I do this channel, I still am deeping diving. What is it? Taking the deep dive in a lot of the poo poo, as I remember you said in the first interview.
right. And if that's how you want to spend your precious global hospice time, then hey, awesome.
And
I the
yeah,
way I'm engaging with it is I'm supporting others in getting their own oxygen masks on
yeah,
so that they can then go help others do the same.
it's
And
beautiful. You're a
we can
lifesaver.
figure out again with the overarching goal of contributing a collapsing well doomer population into the mix.
Into the mix. Steven, what was that movie where they pushed the caveman into the giant pile of dinosaur dung? I can't tell you because I have no remembering of movies. No, no, no. Deborah says a primate, and the shining thing, the shining things distract people. Yeah. How do you deal with people who are very distracted with the shiny things, which sometimes I can say I still am in a way.
Well, that's a great question. I expect that the vast majority of people will likely choose the shiny things over the stuff that makes them more uncomfortable. And so that's just an accepted reality that I live with rather than trying to fight it or let it upset me. Or again, like I'll admit it, I'm super selfish. Like I'm all about keeping my own oxygen mask on through this because this is not like kindergarten sandbox what we're talking about
Right.
that's coming for us down the pike, right? I mean, this is like the collapse of everything that we know and love.
Yeah, I've made about, a million
And
videos on that.
yeah, and so, I'm really hyper focused on making the most of my days and not letting things come into my world that cause me disruption. And I can't control a lot, but I absolutely can control that. I get to decide.
So if someone wants to come into your group, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because there's a lot of people that might be interested in this and this invaluable support. Tell us about
Yeah,
that.
well, Michael Dowd started a discussion group around collapse, which got me inspired to start a women's group where we are, I think, probably the most collapse accepting group I know of out there.
Wow.
We've been together for 2 years now, and we are essentially a closed group, but we do accept new bloomers from time to time. We call ourselves Bloom with Grace. It was post doom, which was Michael's thing, post doom, and then post doom bloom. And with grace is my acronym for getting real about collapse extinction, because I think, we need to do this with grace and with dignity and, go down not kicking and screaming and fighting and crying and bemoaning and being grumbly and upset, but being holding our heads high and being wise and, with grace and dignity. So you can go on the Postdoom website, and there's a blurb in the Connect area where you can find information about Bloom. And then also Collapse Club is
Oh yeah, David Baum and
David
he's in.
Baum and company, Susan
Mm-hmm.
Porter and Wendy
Yes,
Freeman
Susan.
are offering lovely opportunities for discussion. And it's not collapse acceptance is not a requirement. come one, come all, and just sit with it and get real with it. And they have really structured opportunities.
It's becoming
And
more popular, actually. There's a group in Boulder Jennifer belongs to. It's a collapse acceptance group in Colorado. So
yeah,
there's support for people out there that understand this, that want to.
there is. And there are many other offerings on Postdoom in the Connect area. Michael was awesome about 3 things, I think, a lot of things, but educating, supporting, and connecting. And those of us on the Postdoom team have made a huge commitment that we're going to keep the Connect area, as vibrant and active as possible, to give people ways to talk about it and connect with others, because that's one of the hardest things, is just feeling alone, feeling like you're the only one that get it, feeling like your partner doesn't even understand, your family doesn't understand, your friends don't want to talk about it. You
Oh,
mentioned
yeah.
collapse, they'll run in screaming with their hair on fire, whatever. So, but you're not alone. There's people all around the planet who totally get it. And, anybody who watches your show, Sandy, has to totally understand, like, the science, the data, it's all there.
And if they haven't, they are learning, because we do have new people that are following us. And why I specifically talk about younger people is because there are a lot of younger people that have come to follow us. And I'm bringing some voices on, different people from the traditional team that we've had, and they're all in their 30s. And so, I'm interested to see in what their conversation and where it goes, but they're all definitely accepting, of
Yeah.
what's happening. But it is anyway, I want to read
Yeah.
what JV just said. It's so inspiring to connect with collapse acceptance people. Well, it is, especially when you try not to. I mean, I'm a human, and I will get upset over the world situation. I mean, for gosh sake, since October, that's the same day Michael died, and Israel got into the war with Gaza, and we've been witnessing horrible things. And it has been very hard not to let yourself go down the rabbit hole of sorrow and despair. But it's happening in other places. That's just one example, the worst one, but it's happening all over the world. And so I suppose part of accepting collapse is that's war collapse. And these are things we cannot change we cannot. Even voting is not going to change it.
No, nothing is. This is the whole point. Nothing is. It's only going to get worse. We're following a scripted trajectory of what civilizations do. They rise and they fall, and we're in the fall.
Exactly.
We're,
That's what you knew.
and
That's what you
collapse
taught.
is a process.
Yeah. You taught that in school.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's actually very freeing when you can go, okay, yeah, I got it. Like, the other thing for me that was a huge revelation is, like, I was never promised anything. From the moment of my birth, I was never promised anything. Nobody said, like, oh, Karen, you're going to have this amazing life that's going to have all these comforts and conveniences, and it's always going to last forever. And when it starts to go away, you have the right to be very, very, very sad and mad about it. I was just like, I was never promised it in the first place. So why do I want to spend the time that I have to still live, to still be alive, to still get to see birds, to still get to,
Right.
hug trees, still get to, feel rain on my face, and, whatever it is that brings you joy? Like, why do I want to spend that being worried and mad and grumpy and upset about things I have zero control over?
Well, sometimes it's hard. Like I said, I sometimes fall down the rabbit holes, but I do pull myself out because I have these people around me, and I just wish I had more time to be involved with some different things like what you're doing. I never seem to be able to pull time because I am involved in a lot of different things, or even just taking care of this place, which actually does give me a lot of joy.
Yeah,
Growing food, cats, just the simple shit in life. Cleaning,
sure.
which it's not anybody's preference to do, but there are things that just, other people might think is humdrum, but I enjoy them.
And that's the
Right.
benefits of collapse acceptance. Like you get to enjoy things more. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually not. And you know, there's plenty of opportunities for anybody to step out and say, I want to start a discussion group. That's what I did because I just saw a need for women to talk. And I would love to have page after page after page scrolling through on the Post-Doom website of offerings, every day, multiple times, all around the globe, of people having discussion opportunities to just
Yeah.
talk and figure this out and discuss wise responses and discuss these important questions of like, what do we tell our children, and how, what should I do about my retirement account, and all these
Yeah.
actual real pragmatic questions related to all of this. So please get in touch with me, and consider, after you feel pretty okay with your own oxygen mask, even if you don't, we're all figuring this out together, honestly. Like, there's no handbook of how to collapse well.
No.
We're creating it together. We're writing the language together. And anybody who has an interest in helping others out, it's awesome.
And I'm
Thank
happy
you.
for Jennifer that she's actually been able to connect with people in person. That's the next step because eventually this is all going to go away. Oh, hi, Jordan. Your husband's here. Collapse acceptance doesn't mean abandoning pathways to love in action. There's lots of work to do once in collapse: activism, social work, mental health, regeneration. Collapsing well will take off because we're supporting each other. And there's so much work to be done in it, but the work is not work. It's not the traditional name work of drudge and hatred. It's or not liking. It's helping. It's supporting each other
It is. And
all over.
it's giving back to the rest of the community of life that's suffering under the weight of all of this, they're just caught up in it. And the more we can like try to help get the foot off the accelerator, it makes things a little bit better for not just our species, but for all species on the way down. So,
Yeah.
trying to learn to live with less, cutting back a lot on what you think you need to have. Um, Even if it's not going to stop what's happening. But
Mm-hmm.
again, the goal is to collapse well and, make it a little more equitable and more comfortable in some respects. And, you know,
And like
we
Jordan
owe
said,
it.
it's going to proliferate because as these situations happen all over the world, droughts and fires and weather whiplash, and watching or hearing about it, if people that do understand about the Arctic and the Antarctic and just our own habitats. I see the differences here in over 10 years.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah. We're
want to
really at the
accept
point,
it, but you have
we're
to.
really at the point where, we threw the big giant rager party, trashed the house. The couch is cut up. There's barf on the floor. Something got lit on fire. Like, the whole place is a total shit show disaster. And mom and dad are on their way home, and we know it. And we know there's nothing, we know we're going to be in trouble no matter what. We're going to be in trouble, but maybe we'd make it a little teeny tiny bit better if we just tried to do some cleaning up.
Yeah, that's what I'm all about. And I think a lot of people here are all about that. Even, all these little channels that I associate with, everybody's about making it better in some way. I mean, I
Yeah.
think
And
everybody
so,
is aware.
the way you do that is you get your butt out of collapse awareness, because you're spending too much time doom scrolling, being sad, being worried, projecting about the future, all these different things that's taking away from you focusing in on just how to live your life to the in the best quality standards you can for yourself, for your family, for your community, as a way of giving back.
Let me put up what Donald's saying, because this is something that I think about all the time. And people, I can't help but think that it's the poor who are going to get the blunt end of it first. Collapse acceptance for who? That's a lot of what I'm concerned about, is people that are not as privileged as we are to be where we are. And that is something that I am. I'm totally concerned about it.
Okay, I love this question. Thank you. I get this question a lot.
Okay.
Let me be perfectly clear who I
Thank you,
am talking
Donald.
to, because I understand people on the bottom decks of the Titanic are already suffering. The water's coming in. They do not need a collapse acceptance intervention. I am specifically talking to people of privilege who actually have the privilege and the means to make a difference for everybody
Yeah.
on the way down, if they can let go of a lot of their own comfort and convenience, start spreading the wealth around, and change what they're doing that's contributing only towards making things worse, not better. So I am specifically talking to people of privilege who need to get this.
Right. Who need to give it up. Stop it. That's our whole political system. It's all about greed. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, where they talk about I'll see a clip on the news, and they'll talk about Donald Trump, and they'll say, "Well, he only has to pay 173 million billion million dollars." And I'm like, what world are we in? Only, where does that come in? Only $173 million. They have to come up with $500 million. I mean, it's insanity. And so that's why I give the younger people that are in these, that want to change the entire system and want to change it, because on the way down, everybody's going to be forced somehow to have to be more equitable and disperse things equitably. Even those idiots in the bunkers.
Yeah, collapse is coming for everyone. So,
Yeah.
you can't, your money, you can't hide behind, your money's not going to save you. It's going to, the higher you are up in the tree too, the further you have to fall. So, the people who are ground level, who already know how to just like tough it out, and have way better coping skills than the vast majority of people with fat bank accounts.
Yeah, I think you're right about the coping skills that way. Yeah, absolutely. Those are the people that are always on the most antidepressants, I think. Yeah, there's a whole big collapse we have to talk about that's happening. The medical system. I mean, people are going to not not be able to have those resources. Excuse me, but
Right.
that's like a different
And
show.
we're also, we're also at the point where we need to have, if we were really serious about understanding our predicament and what wise responses could look like, we'd be having really hard but important conversations about prolonging life. And why are we doing advanced medical procedures on people in their 90s? And does that even make sense? And is it okay to be continuing to take resources away from the younger generations who have barely had a chance to, get to enjoy this place, to keep some, half dead people, I'm sorry, but they are propped alive a little bit longer? This is part of the hard conversations about
They're
collapse.
very hard.
So if you think that this is like for the just like, oh, you're just doomers, like you just don't care, it's like, oh no, like these are actually real deep hard, like challenging conversations. Like, we have to change the way we feel about people wanting to have an exit strategy just to be done, because they're like, I'm good. I'm just going to jump off the deck. Can I do it? Like, we have to be able to say, yeah, if that feels like your own response. I mean, we've gone totally backwards. Like, now you can't even get an abortion because we're so like, oh, life.
Well, live and
And
let
it's
live is not anything to do with what's going on now. It's all about control. And that is why I'm still getting involved in things, because I don't want to see us on the way out having nothing, going back to 1864. Although if
that's
we went back industrially to 1864, we might be better off. But we were burning fossil fuels in 1864. And that's a whole
yeah,
fallacy too, that we're really going to get off fossil fuels when, they're both, I mean, one's saying drill, 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 and the statistics are showing we have been the biggest exporters of fossil fuels in the last how many years, right?
yeah, I mean, everything's additive. The electric grid on top of the fossil fuels and electricity, a lot of it comes from fossil fuels anyway. And it's just like, I mean, it's a house of cards that's falling apart. And
Yeah,
we just have to enjoy what we have now while we
we
have
try.
it, and not, I don't know.
No,
Again,
if you
go ahead.
talk politically, lightning rod saying the doom is inevitable because it's deliberate. And maybe, the negative connotation of it. It's deliberate because it was known what we could have done to stop this how many years ago, and that's an acceptance that a lot of people have not been able to come with it. They still have the feeling that everything's going to be okay, but I just don't know how.
Yeah,
Thanks.
well, I mean, we have no civilizational example of that model of living for our species on this planet as being successful. It's always risen and fallen. It's built on agriculture, which is built on a false premise in the first place. So our species was very successful tribally, and living as hunter gatherers and aligned with all the other species and as being participants in the web instead of trying to control it all. And once we made the decision to start trying to control everything, then it essentially controlled us.
Yeah.
So there's good research that states that we're the first species domesticated, and it was plants that domesticated us.
It is completely agriculture domesticated us right from the get
So
go.
this goes way, 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 way back. You had Lyle Lewis on, and he's written
Yeah, I
that
love
that
him.
really good book, Racing to
What a
Extinction.
book! I
And
cried. I had to put it down because it was the emotion of it. Just, and it's all things I knew, but it was still not an easy book. But nothing's easy, obviously.
right, but then that comes back around to the letting go of just being like, everybody, you hear it all the time. Oh, it's all about the present moment and just be in the present. And it's really all that we have. And it's actually really true.
Janet, you're right.
So
Colonization became the problem, probably hand in hand with.
it was civilization, the model of civilization, but colonization is certainly a tenet of civilization, a civilizational way of living. Yeah.
See, give to the poor, give power to poor women. Take power away from the 1%. I'm all for that. I don't want any power. I mean, I had a job where I had some power, and it wasn't comfortable. It was not, and that's what we have to make power not be comfortable. It shouldn't be comfortable. And no one that's making this kind of money and obscenely wealthy it's insanity. They shouldn't be comfortable. Everything needs to be equitable on the way down. But like I said, it's going to be forced. All right.
Right, but I feel like we can do some good to sort of demand it, like individually and with our families and with our communities. We can actually kind of try to do what we can to break away. I mean, we can never fully break away from the machine. We're all like locked to it, but you can do some things to try to distance yourself, even if it's just in your mind, like to feel less plugged in and less like you're just a cog in this toxic wheel.
Right. A lot of young activists, young progressives specifically, that I associate with are completely doing that. And it's a great thing to see, but it's not easy. It's not easy. I'm going to go back to what Jean said earlier. What did Eleanor Roosevelt say? No one can insult you without your permission. It's okay, doomers. That's right. That was from the beginning.
I see it as a compliment, not an insult. I'm
Right.
like, yeah, I'm a doomer. But I'm more a post doomer because
Right.
I'm on the other side of doom, and I feel
Okay.
really grateful for that and proud of. I don't know. I don't really like the word proud, but I'm really happy with the work that I've done to be able to hold this and offer potentially a way to help others do so as well. Like that feels like the strongest, wisest, most courageous, brave, loving thing I can be doing right now is to be a doomer. So yay, doomers.
Karen, our beautiful Karen Singing Way. Question: can you mention the difference between collapsing with grace and being a prepper? That's an
Okay.
interesting one. Good for you, Karen. That's an interesting one. Woo.
That's a great question. Well, I suppose prepping presumes that I don't know. I think you can collapse with grace, and also do some prepping to say like, I'm going to have some systems in place if this continues to be kind of like a blimp crash more than a, off the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of could make some sense to have some skills. I mean, that's what we did 12 years ago, was move to the woods where we have been growing food and chopping wood, and we have our own well, and we're a little more, I don't want to use the word sustainable because that's ridiculous, but we have a few things set up in the event that things got a little more, like I said, blimp crashy.
Yeah.
But if the prepping is about, I'm going to ride out biospheric collapse and systemic societal collapse, I'm going to ride that out to something else. That's where I feel like that's chasing a crazy dream, because I don't see the vast majority of our species, if any, let alone all the species that we depend on for life, surviving the kind of biospheric collapse that's being waged upon.
Yeah.
So
Steven says, prepping is the hubris of delusional humans thinking they'll survive with money or gold. Right. I'm kind of a prepper, but with cat food and cat litter. I'm terrified of being without it. Cat food, cat litter, canned vegetables.
it's all short term stuff.
Prepping
So.
takes the worry away. Okay, so having what you need. For example, tonight we have a storm warning and it is ridiculous. I'm just so mad. A wind advisory and a winter weather, 4 to 8. Oh, didn't it change? Earlier I read you, they said it was going to be more, or did I say 4 to 8? And 50-mile-an-hour winds. And here, it's supposed to start at 11 tonight. Here, the power goes off. It just goes off. And I don't have solar or backup anything other than these batteries to run this thing. So, so I'm prepped. I have firewood and I have a flashlight. I mean, I'm prepped for tonight. But it's just making sure you have enough to ride out whatever short term. Because I certainly don't have a bunker. I mean, I did a whole show on bunker babies, videos, shows.
Yeah, but that again comes back around to like, we're not surviving collapse. Like that's not the goal. That's not, and so
All right.
yeah, if you have a few short-term, solutions in place that help you worry less about in the event, like, da 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 happens temporarily, and it can give you a little more time to figure out, how to regroup or, whatever, sure. But I think collapse acceptance also helps you let go of even the worry, because you're just like we had a wildfire almost burn us down in 2021. It was so close here. I still can't believe we're here. And you're just in it, you're in the moment, you just do the next right thing and you just figure it out. No matter what it is, you just figure it out, and you just have to trust that you're always going to just figure it out, even if it means you exit this planet and you do whatever comes after this life. You'll just figure it out. And having trust in that has kind of let go of all this like worrying about having to, stockpile and have all these things. And again, that's all taking up time away from your present moment, your quality of life
Yeah.
now. You're focusing in on having good days, spending time with your family and your loved ones and giving back to the wild world around you. And obviously, though, I can't tell anybody what to do, like what makes you feel the most comfortable with all of
Right.
this. It's an individual decision. So if somebody feels great that they've built a huge bunker and they've got all this stuff and that's their response, and that's what they feel is collapsing well for them, then hey, awesome.
That's letting people make their own choices, which is so not happening. I mean, it is getting so much worse as we need to be aware of collapse. And we're collapsing. We're going to get, it seems like, moving towards authoritarianism, fascism. Karen spent 40 years being able to afford to buy a little land. Now I want to help others connect into mutual aid neighborhood networks in suburbs and cities. That's beautiful to me. Karen does training. She's a librarian. She's amazing. Um, let's see. We have so much. The monetary system has a big part in this, and many people don't want to elevate their consciousness. They don't face truth either.
Yeah, that's interesting, Janet. Thank you for that comment, because, or Janae, maybe it is. People are so caught up in being concerned about what other people are doing, right?
Constantly.
And I'm just like, let it go. Let it go. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we're just focus in on what you're doing and try to help ripple that out as you can. But I've had to learn to, like, if somebody flips me off on the freeway or whatever, or they're driving their big, giant gas guzzling, thing, like rolling coal or whatever they do past me with their, political thing in the window or whatever, I just have to just be like, yeah, hey,
Right.
have a good day. collapse sucks. We're all in this together, you know? Like, I just think that's a critical component of this, to stop being so concerned about everybody else getting it, because they won't. And, you know,
Being
everybody being
concerned
able
about
to,
everybody else's business
yeah,
constantly. But the social media is like that. The internet's like that. There's a million shows talking about everybody else's, business. It's hard to
yeah,
get out of that too. I mean, I try not to do that except with
yeah.
clueless
You really,
morons.
you got to be careful about what you allow in. I've decided that if I'm choosing to go onto a news media source and read a news story, or get into even a social media post or whatever it is, like
Hmm.
I kind of treat it like adopting a puppy. Like,
Okay.
like it's a really, I'm very careful about what I choose to allow in, because once I allow it in, now I've adopted it, and I have to do all the work to try to process it, figure out what I want to do with it, um, decide how I'm going to like not think about that thing anymore, whether or not it's going to make me mad or frustrated. Um, it's not benign.
Right.
It isn't. And that's part of like less is more. And that includes less of a lot of the content that we take in, and we're just bombarded with it. And
Well,
it's no bueno.
the government in Florida is trying to make laws that kids can't consume social media. So all the apps, kids won't be able to. Actually, it's very interesting because my daughter brought that up on her Facebook to her friends. Should social media be banned for kids under whatever age, right? She was asking her friends. And it was interesting to see the commentary about it. A lot of people think it's very destructive for kids, but then the other side is, well, parental rights. What about freedom in this country? There's everything is a dilemma. I suppose it is.
Yeah.
That's what it, it's so much more complicated. All these things are so much more complicated. Here, there were a couple of comments. I can't find Foggy. She had come in earlier. I just want to tell you, Foggy, if you're here, Foggy Sunset, hello. I can't find the comment. Uh, okay. It is interesting. Hi, Steph. It is interesting following Christian doomers that think the only people that wrote the Bible could foresee collapse. So only the religious people. See, now that's a whole other issue too, is the not spiritual or not just the followers of beautiful teachings, but now we are into this age of insanely perverted beliefs. Is that part of collapse?
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to all this, isn't there? Like,
Yes.
those who have a biblical understanding, and it's probably has a lot to do with what's going on in the Middle East. And I don't want to go there, but yeah, sure. There's a lot of different ways to be moving through the collapse superhighway, as Jordan describes it. Like, everybody's
Yeah.
kind of in their different lanes, and we're all on the same highway going the same place, but it's just whether or not you think collapse is happening because of, you know, this of a God that you believe in, or because you understand the science, or because, fill in the blank. I mean,
Right. And then Anthony, there are Christians who follow a fool, Donald J. Trump, and there are Christians like myself who focus on the teachings of the Bible. And I use Jared Brock, his writing. He writes The Last Week in Collapse, and he puts everything together that happened in the world under every kind of topic. And he is a Christian doomer, but he's a great writer, and he's smart, and he follows his faith in a nice way that doesn't. It's not a turnoff. It's just a spiritual feeling. He follows it and he believes it, but it's not ugly. like what we're witnessing. And neither is
Yeah.
anybody that follows us here. You know,
Religion plays a really interesting role in all of this, and I think spiritual leaders are going to be relied on more and more for people to um, need to help them adjust as things get worse and worse.
well, Michael
So
was Reverend Michael Dowd.
he was, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it
Exactly.
was.
And there's an excellent new book called Teaching at Twilight that is focused on educators and spiritual leaders in facing the reality of collapse and needing to do a much better job of telling the truth and not lying to their students and not lying to their parishioners. And it's a there's a video chat that's on Post Doom that you can find about that with the author of the book. And I was really excited to see that, because having come through, as an educator myself, retired early because I couldn't take it anymore. But it's a apologies for my phone blinging. I'm on my hotspot, so I should have muted it.
That's
But
fine,
again,
actually.
so yeah, so it was so refreshing to see a college professor speaking to other college professors saying we're not doing right by the next generations by teaching them materials that are just false about a future that they're not going to have.
Really. That's how do you do that though? In some spaces, there's no opportunity because
Right,
kids
but
are
at least they're starting to have the conversations. I mean, they're starting to recognize that this is an important discussion to be having.
well, yeah,
So
last week they were standing outside of my daughter's workplace with signs that said the end is near and the apocalypse is here on the eclipse. So then there's that continuum of collapse. They're just wanting to usher that in. Oh my God. Uh,
yeah,
all right, let's see. There's a lot of cool. Nadia, what are you saying, Nadia? Environmental coffee house. When they've this is going back to the rich. When they've got so much privilege, they can build bunkers at the South Pole to hold out as long as possible. It's deliberate because evangelicals think it'll bring Jesus back. Yeah, collapse, bringing on the collapse, right? And Latino says people take for granted that the monetary system is an integral part of economic activity when its purpose is to enforce class society. We need to build more emancipatory models of political economy. I would love to see that. That's what I'm talking about. Going on our way down, at least build something better because, like, we don't have a crystal ball on knowing how long. Nobody's saying, well, we're going extinct tomorrow.
right. But we don't know, and this is where, like, the first comment before this one. This is where, just like, one of the benefits of collapse acceptance is empathy, because
Yeah.
rich, poor,
I have to
fossil
find it.
fuel barren or not, like we're all in this together, and getting out of this, like, blame, shame, it's your fault, it's my fault, it's their
Yeah.
fault. It's
Yeah.
not helpful. And I've had to do that. I mean, I got arrested twice, like, being so mad at the fossil fuel guys, building the Keystone XL pipeline and all this stuff. And I was like, how dare you? How dare you have all this money? How dare you do these things?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're not awful people, but we're all caught up in this machine. Like, we're all born into this. We're all born into this system. And I get it. Like, some people, it doesn't mean I'm saying people don't behave egregiously. They absolutely do. And if I was in charge, oh my gosh, yeah, things would be like completely, completely different in regards to that. But how does it serve me to spend my precious global hospice time
Yep.
caught up in being mad or upset or frustrated about all these things that I can't change? It doesn't. I'm just contributing to a collective blech.
Collective black. Do I have a sound effect for that? I have a collective a bunch of gas bags out there. Not my people. All right, let's. I had a couple of more. Hello, live the dream. Hello. Um, okay. Religion, this is interesting, Franz, has the benefit of having rituals, gathering places, and community, while science, which is usually right, doesn't. Well, collapse aware communities or discussions are a place to. It's not a
Well,
religion.
environmental coffee house is a science church
Yeah,
of
there you
sorts.
go. There you go. I'm the cult leader, as one of our moderators alluded to, and he says, "You're the cult leader." Yeah, I'm not leading any cult. I told you already. I had a position of a hierarchy, as a director, and I didn't never liked it. I always wanted to be work on the behalf of the employees, not the employer. Oh
Does
well.
anybody have a question?
I'm looking. I'm
Any
looking.
questions out there?
Okay.
I-
Come on, guys. We got questions. There's a lot of comments. There's not a lot of questions. Uh,
Okay.
well, here, Christopher Spavins, the comment is social media might have catalyzed the violent forces of political unreason today, but those forces have historical origins that long predate social media. Yeah. Social media. Yep. Okay. That was probably back when we were talking about it at Jordan Perry. What's for dinner? Your husband's
I'm not in I'm
he's
not in charge of dinner
he's
tonight.
he's
Somebody else
comical.
can do
He's hilarious. All right, let's see. What do you say to people working to solve climate collapse?
it. You can't solve it. So I would really reevaluate what you're doing. You can't solve a predicament. All we can do is respond wisely. And even if the climate was completely fine, we'd still be collapsing from Overshoot,
Hmm.
which is a book that I brought to show you. Whoops, there it is. Wait,
William Catton. I made a video of Frank.
this is Michael
Yep.
Dowd's sacred copy of Overshoot that I got gifted from Connie. And he writes in it, "This is the most important book I've ever read. Please return it to me if you find it somewhere. Thanks." And he has all these notes in it. And the whole thing is like written all over. And he audio recorded this book along with many, many, many other amazing resources to understand why we're in overshoot, which isn't something you can problem solve. We can't get out of it.
Yeah, we're far
So
gone.
anybody who's working on solutions to the climate crisis, you're not going to find them.
Well,
They
they're
don't
looking for him.
exist.
There was just a new piece of research. They were spraying salt over San Francisco Bay as a study to
Imagine
see.
that.
I know there's so many
And now we
questions that came up more. It's salt, not sulfur, salt. But they have. I mean, there's just so much to that. The geoengineering aspect of all this too. I know.
which is a nightmare. I mean that we're just going to like try to like geoengineer our way and make things worse and worse as if we haven't done enough damage to all the rest of the community of life. Now we feel like we have the right to go in and inflict more and more and more on again false solutions that are never going to work.
Well,
You all know
Latinos.
about the tipping points and the things that have been triggered and all the science and the stuff we can't stop. We're not in charge. We never were. And we have to let go of thinking that we are.
That it's an interesting concept. It is. Is it a good idea to finish up my bucket list? Absolutely. Do your bucket list. Bucket list is,
Yes.
of course, Nadia. Nobody's
Yes.
telling you to give up here. Nobody's saying give up. It's achieving things, but just in a different manner, you know.
Yes.
But if you're
I
looking
love that.
for,
I love that question. The last benefit is enjoyment. And I say, it's our global hospice time to have fun with the bucket list. And it doesn't mean like I can tell you what your bucket list should be or what's on it, but if you absolutely have things that you definitely want to do them. It's global hospice time. If you have the opportunity now to make something happen and make a big change in your life, do it. Do not wait.
what does Karen think of the idea that it would be better for life forms and ecosystems if humans went extinct soon? That's a hard one for me.
I think that that's true because of our Homo colossus nature currently. As a species, absent global industrial civilization, you know, we we weren't that harmful to all the rest of the environment. But the industrial scale version of us now, as these Homo colossus giants, is having a obnoxiously rapacious effect faster and faster and faster on destroying this biosphere. So yeah, it would be a lot better for all the rest of the wild world if at least if this version of us came to a screeching halt.
Hmm. Okay, question. Whoops, where'd it go? You are now dictators of the planet. What the fuck do you tell everyone and what do you do? So given that if we were in power or people that understood the big picture, what do you tell people? What would you do? Put your fantasy, your fantasy hat on.
Well, the first thing would be we have to stop making all the stupid shit that nobody needs.
Yes, that's a good one.
And that means there's so much on that list. There's so much food we don't need. There's so many products we don't need. It's all about just having to make money so we can have food and shelter. So we just can solve that problem by giving everybody food and shelter. The money's not real. We just all agree that it is. So it's all made up. It's all a game. So we can just turn business parks into, shelter for people and
Yeah.
there's plenty of food to go around for everybody. Gosh, in the United States alone, 40% of the food ends up in a waste stream. It's ridiculous
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
true.
There's so much overages and so it would just be a immediate halting the amount that we work. We work way too hard, way too long, doing dumb things that we don't need to do.
The
People are
bullshit jobs, like they call it. The bullshit jobs.
that's the majority of them. I mean, what are we even doing? It's all so nuts. If you break it down, you look at it like an alien from space. Like, what are those crazy humans running around doing? I mean, it's just bizarre, the stuff that we do, and the waste, the level of waste and excess and ridiculousness. So, yeah, it would be just that would be step one for me.
Okay. And that would bring and some sort of the income stopping, just stopping. That would bring more income equality, I think. Even though people say, well, there's jobs, but we won't need all this stuff we're force fed through the media and through this system. Somebody
No.
had a comment about that earlier.
Yeah. And the next thing I would say is, just like in COVID, right? Like, go home. Just go home. Be with your family. Like, we're collapsing. Like, it's not
Okay,
going to
well,
stop.
people, I know.
So,
I
group
know.
up with people you love, get a bunch of puzzles and games, and and we'll figure out the food thing so everybody has food and water and shelter that they need in the meantime. And we'll just kind of like hang out
Yeah.
while the shit gets worse.
Does it? Well, you are now. Oh, wait, I got that. Sorry, wait, we got rid of that one. Here's this one. Uh, will degrowth take over as finite resources limit the current economic model that is growth dependent? So, as we are obviously not collapsed yet, will degrowth, you think that will take over as things are limited more?
Well, obviously, degrowth equals collapse. If we're not growing, we're shrinking, we're collapsing. So absolutely, we will be continuing to, whether you do it purposefully, like we have, or you do it because you're forced to, that's where this is headed.
Okay. Let's see, guys, we're going on an hour and a half. Oh my gosh. A lot of good, interesting conversation, that's for sure. Yeah, well, thinking what she's saying, pretty privileged plan. And I mean that that's but Karen had was speaking to that before.
Which I'm not sure what's the
Talking
pretty privilege.
about, well, just being able to say, okay, I'm stepping away from this civilization, this industrialized craziness. How can people that have to eat and have,
Well,
kids?
no, I said my plan includes we figure out how to get food that's
Yes.
equitably distributed for everybody. There's equitable shelter and clothing and what people need equitably for everybody. There's we certainly could do that if we really wanted to. If this was I'm in charge, right? So it starts with equitable for everybody.
It's a dream, and it's a dream that a lot of people have.
It's an impossibility. But if you have the privilege to stop working, to not demand that others have to do all these things for you so you can have like this super cushy life, and you can instead take your retirement funds and spread the money around, and like, I don't know, like, these are all the conversations we really should be having
Mm-hmm.
that we're
But we're
not,
not.
because we're focused on solutions that are never going to work.
It's how to
Instead of
survive now, how to
instead of
function and survive with what we have.
wise responses to
I
what
know,
we're dealing with.
right?
Yeah,
Because
and
business as usual, it ain't going on.
and I don't know the answers, but like, at least we should be having the right conversations, and we just aren't. And I 100% agree that the equitability
Mm-hmm.
is so obnoxious.
And Teddy says so many crises, and the government is not putting enough funding to solve them. They're having discussions in the chat, which is great.
Yeah, no,
This spurred a lot of discussion.
and governments never save collapsing civilizations. It never happens. It never will.
Live the dream. I like this idea of planetary hospice being engaged, not just nihilistic. Bring beauty and presence to dying.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not nihilism.
No.
It's giving back. It's like trying to reduce suffering around you in whatever way you can, for yourself, for your family, for your community, for the wild world.
This has been a great chat, Teddy. It has. Stephen said he thinks the conversation is heading in the right way. Oh, there's so many. I can't get to them all. All right, what's first? All right, here. Nadia, pragmatic. What's first? Blue ocean event or zero average sperm count? And Sam's here, and he's saying we would have a lot more if people stop breeding, stop having kids. Obviously, population is a big problem of overshoot.
Yeah,
Of overshoot.
it's that's on the list of there being way too many of us here, way too fast.
8
It's
billion.
all out of balance.
Right, but this planet occupants are not going in that direction. In this country, they are certainly not going in the direction of giving women choice to do that or not. They're taking it away. Oh, gosh. All
Yeah.
right. There is another one that I wanted to find. Oh, Gary, again, he had said, great. Karen brings up the need for spiritual leaders and educators to talk about the reality of collapse. No more lies about continuing business as usual, which fits the narrative. And
Yeah.
so
Again,
many wonderful things.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Gary. Yeah, that's a great book. If you haven't, again, Teaching at Twilight, it's so important to recognize collapse acceptance as the most loving response we could possibly have
Right.
to our predicament, to actually be able to make some real powerful adjustments happen that could be better for everyone.
He has one more comment. I suggest finding or forming faith communities that center on living in loving relationship with all our relations in the place we are. This is what it means to be human. And that could be a city, a block. You know, they have block communities, block clubs. Well, if people were more aware of this,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
maybe they could be happier.
I hear the people talk about nature as an other. Like, I'm going to go visit nature, or I love being in nature, or going out into nature.
Right.
And that's always triggering for me, because I'm like, we are nature. I'm nature. You're nature. You can't go visit something you already are. And what I understand what people are talking about. They're talking about being in the wild world, the not industrialized world, the not domesticated world, where we spend a lot of our time. But it's an important distinction, I think, because the other component that I feel is so critical to adopting a post-doom mindset is getting in touch with the creature in you born wild and free. Just like every other creature is born on this planet wild and free. You are the same. You have 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 ears, appendages. I mean, like, how many, start making the list of how many other creatures on this planet follow that exact pattern, right? Like, we are nature. We are natural beings. We are here inhibiting these bodies as part of this planet right now. And reconnecting with that, and that deepening that relationship is a really powerful way to help get to collapse acceptance and focus in more on that as part of how it can inform your daily living. And even if you're in a city, even if you're in a concrete jungle, find a wild creature, look them in the eyes, whether it's a squirrel or a bird or a spider, but start with the one in the mirror.
All right. Okay. I live in New York City, and Central Park and other parks have nature. See? It's there. And we are part of it. Although we've made those. Okay, there was another question. I had another question. Oh, where is it? Oh, boy. I think I lost it. Oh, well, it was a good one. And I didn't highlight it. All right, here's one. This is A. This is not Q. It is our duty then to start our Noah's Ark of species on our balcony, yard, and garden. Plant the most amount of diversity, and then maybe 5,000 years from now, the work you put in has transformed to, and I couldn't find the rest of it. Well, a lot of us are doing that, actually, trying to leave the place better than we walked in on it.
Yeah, that's part of cleaning up the mess, isn't it? Like trying to do what you can in your own little wherever you are to just make something better than it
Yeah.
was.
Okay,
You
here's a
know?
question from Dwayne that I missed. Here is a question from Dwayne. What do you tell your kids to help them understand that life is not in the future, life is now? Kids should always have been told that, actually, in my opinion. Live now, and we would have been a lot happier because we wouldn't have been chasing that mythical future we were told we should have. Living in the
Right,
now, Karen.
right. Yeah, I mean, it again, it's more what we don't tell them, you know? I mean, when I was teaching, it used to drive me nuts, like the lesson plans that would have these kids like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'd just be like, why do we do that? Like, what do you mean? What do you want to be? Do we ask a squirrel, what do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, a squirrel's you know, a squirrel. I want to do squirrel things. I mean, like we have to stop using language that supports the dominant narrative and start using ones that support a more wild and free, feral way of being. Um, and stop feeding them lies. You know, I mean, a full life is a full life, no matter how long.
Okay,
And
Tim, what is this? Do you tell your kids about the tooth fairy? Do you know
well,
Tim Bob's
we're the
a fellow video girl?
we're the culture of make believe.
Yeah,
So we
I do
lie
that all the
about
time.
everything, and we when we start lying to kids from the time they're little. And did I play tooth fairy with my kids? Yep. Did I do the Santa Claus thing for a while? Yep. Um, did I do Easter Bunny stuff? Yeah, I did. Did we have leprechauns running around the house? Yep,
Okay.
playing tricks. I mean, but so yeah, it's hard like to face up to the dominant story that we've been told and then figure out the best way to handle it with our kids. But
All right. What is a feral
parents
way
know.
of being, Karen? Feral way. I mean, we have to define the terms. Feral way of being.
So if you go to my Substack, I do some writing about that there. But essentially, if feral is like the bridge between domesticated and wild. It's that place where you know you've got like a foot in both worlds, right? So it's kind of freaky and weird, and it doesn't conform to all the norms of either one.
Right.
Like I can never be a fully wild creature because I wasn't born that way. I was born wild and free, but I was instantly domesticated, right? So for me to just then be able to be wild is not possible. There's a pathway, a bridge that you have to go through to get there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's this feral place of unknown. It's confusing, it's different, it looks different, it feels different. And for me, what I had to do was like strip away as much as I could of the dominant culturalization that I've had and start to live a lot closer to feeling more wild, knowing I could never fully be there. But, you know, for me, it meant taking off my shoes and going barefoot outside and living in a place where we didn't have hot water for on demand hot water for 6 months to figure out what that felt like. And, you know, we have
Living
our
like 80% of the world.
yeah, and our exactly, and our heat source is wood burning, and yeah, it seems even like ridiculous to even say that, right, Sandy? Like we're so privileged that like stripping all those things out could feel significant, but they actually do. You know, artificial light is a huge one. Like we we use so much artificial light, and it robs us of our ability to see in the dark, and we actually can. We don't need very much light at all, if any, to even be able to see. We can, but we lose that skill. Um, and so it's just tapping back in to the wild creature that you are, you know, knowing you're going to be this weird hybrid thing.
Okay.
I hope that
I mean,
helps explain.
it helps. Stephen really wants to understand this. Stephen, go to her Substack and read her writings too. It can help. It can help. We put links
Yeah.
in. You know, it sometimes these shows it's hard to really articulate all of the depth in a topic situation, but we try. We try. Absolutely. All right. Well, we are going on an hour. This has been a long show, but
I'm so appreciative
I've
for
really
anybody
enjoyed it.
hanging in here
Yeah,
still. Thank
it's been
you.
great. Actually, I think they're having a lot of fun. That you bring up topics that spur conversation, and even if there's disagreement, there's conversation. That's good because there's nobody here that's telling anybody out there. No, you've got to do that. You've got to walk in the same. No, that's not what this is about at all. Not at
No.
all.
The only thing I'm saying to do is understand our predicament. Do the research. Go to Postdoom or wherever else you need to go to really understand why we're in this predicament that we're in.
Yeah.
And then come to terms with it and accept it. That's a big ask, I know, but I am asking
Yes.
to do that thing because again, that's my hopium for the world is that if more and more people were willing to do that there'd be a shift that could be made that could contribute towards things being a little bit better for everyone,
Everyone.
human and non, on the way down.
That's the core. The core is being out of yourself and really giving or doing for others.
Yeah. And
And
know that you're not alone. There's so many people out there who are wise and wonderful and talented and loving and kind and compassionate. And I know a lot of them are here. And there's a lot of places you can get support. And that is what I'm dedicating my global hospice time work to do right now. I don't get paid for any of the work that I do. It's not about that. It's never been about the money. Michael Dowd has never had a donate button. He wasn't trying to sell books. We're literally just about trying to help other people get comfortable with this.
well, it'll certainly be easier for them. I mean, what else can I say? I've really enjoyed this. Thank you, Karen, for coming, for being so gracious. Teddy had said earlier you're the best guest Sandy's probably ever had. And I've had a lot of guests. I've had a lot of guests, but I want to thank you. I hope we do this again. Remember, 3 times a charm. 3 times a charm. Is everybody all right out there? Y'all good? I'm happy you all came.
I would love to do it again. And thanks for putting up with my techie glitch problems.
What was it? 2 things?
In there.
No, it was fine. It was fine. It was great. All right, I'm going to stop
You're
looking at the chat.
Awesome. You're awesome, Sandy.
Somebody wants book
happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's I have to get over that birthday. It's a big one. It's a big one. It's a collapse birthday. All right, guys. Karen, thank you again. I am going to do the end and come back on Tuesday for last week in collapse, which is completely different than what we've talked about here. It's more of the hands-on, which Karen knew. Yeah, the hands-on. All right, guys. Mwah. Peace out.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace.
Take care. We're all in this together.
Yes, we are.